For decades, we've all been told that buying a house is pretty much the smartest financial move you can make. It's just what you do. But what if that's not the whole story? What if there's a better, maybe even kind of boring alternative for our savings? Let's get into it.
We've all heard this, right? I mean, maybe we've even said it ourselves. Well, you have to put your money somewhere. It's the ultimate justification for pouring everything into property. And yeah, it sounds like simple common sense. But what if that phrase is less about making a brilliant choice and more about not really having one?
And that leads us right to our first big question. How on earth did we end up in a world where a house is the default answer for, well, everything financially? Let's unpack the factors that got us here. For a long time, property just made sense in a way that other investments didn't. Unlike some abstract stock or a complicated bond, a house is real, it's tangible. You can see it, you can touch it, you can live in it. And that physical reality made it feel incredibly understandable and, more importantly, secure. And this little flip in perspective changes everything. What if our focus on property isn't some huge cultural obsession with homeownership, but it's actually just a direct result of having no other good options? All of a sudden, buying a house starts to look less like a choice and more like the only logical move left on the board. So what's really fascinating is how this timeline shows the perfect storm that pushed us all towards property. First, you've got interest rates falling off a cliff, which made a savings account feel pretty pointless. At the same time, those solid company pensions started to feel a lot less reliable. Then you add in the fact that for a lot of people, wages were just stuck in neutral, while at the exact same time, house prices were going through the roof. It was basically a giant neon sign pointing everyone in one direction: real estate. And just like that, our homes were forced to do two jobs at once: be a place to live and also be our primary savings account for the future. So, buying a house, or even a second one, didn't feel like a risky bet. Nope, it felt like the most responsible, careful, prudent thing you could possibly do with your money. Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial question. When we invest in property, what are we actually trying to get? Is it really about the bricks and the mortar, or is it about something much, much deeper than that? This is the absolute heart of the matter. Is our fascination with property truly about owning a physical building? Or is property just the best tool we've had so far to achieve a much simpler goal? Finding a safe place for our money that gives us steady returns and protects us from getting wiped out by inflation. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Housing is the vehicle, but our real destination is just plain old financial security. So if we had another way to get there, another vehicle that was just as reliable, would we really be so fixated on this one particular ride? All right, so if we're looking for a new vehicle to get us to that financial destination, what would it even look like? What would the design specs be? Let's explore that. Now, you might be surprised to hear this, but the perfect alternative to property is boring. Yeah, utterly, wonderfully, fantastically boring. See, we don't need a roller coaster for our life savings. We need a slow, steady, predictable train ride. In this case, boring is absolutely a feature, not a bug. Right. And to be clear, this isn't about gambling on the next big thing. We're not looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. What we really need is a get-secure-slowly plan. So any real alternative to housing has to nail these three core functions you see here. First off, it has to provide steady returns that keep up with inflation. Second, it needs to be stable and avoid those heart-stopping market swings. And number three, and this is a big one, its success can't rely on making homes less affordable for the next generation. It's a tall order, for sure, but that's what we need. Now for an idea that is really interesting and could make this possible. What if we could invest in things without actually having to own them? We've always just assumed that investing in housing means buying a property, maybe being a landlord, having all that direct control. But what if we could get the financial benefits of real estate without the hassle and the burden of direct ownership? And what's so cool is that we're already doing this. It's not a crazy new idea. Our pension funds and other big investments pour money into things like bridges and power grids and utilities. We all get the benefit from the stability of those essential assets, but we don't personally own a single brick or a single wire. The model is already here, working all around us. This table just shows the difference so clearly. Look at that top line, traditional property. You own it directly, and the goal is to make money from the fact that it's scarce. But now look at the bottom two. This is the new model. No direct ownership, and the goal completely shifts to getting steady,
boring returns while providing something socially useful, like, say, more housing. It's a totally different mindset.
And here is the potential payoff. If we had a boring, reliable, steady investment for our savings, it could take so much of the pressure off the housing market. If our homes didn't have to be our retirement plan, well, maybe, just maybe, they'd become more affordable for everyone else to actually live in.
So, where does all this leave us? We've seen why we're so hooked on housing, and we've explored what a better alternative could look like. So, what's the big takeaway here?
And let's be really clear about something. This isn't about blaming anyone. Investing in property was the logical, rational choice to make inside the system we had. The real question now is, can we build a better system, one with more and better choices for everybody?
And here it is. This is the big idea. Maybe the fix for the housing crisis isn't about breaking the housing market at all. Maybe the most powerful thing we could do is just give our savings a new, better home, so that our actual homes can finally just be homes again. So the path forward seems pretty clear. We need to create real, valid alternatives to property. We have to reduce the pressure on our homes to be everything to everyone, and we need to build investments that get their value from creating things, not from scarcity. And so we're left with this final question. What would a good, boring, socially useful investment actually look like in the real world? Finding the answer might just be one of the biggest economic challenges we face, but honestly, it's a challenge we absolutely cannot afford to ignore.